Hello, this is Josh Bycer from GameWisdom.com. Hope you enjoy this video. Hello everybody, this is Josh Bycer from GameWisdom.com. Welcome to our weekly show, Game Wisdom Live, where we recap some of the topics going on in Game Wisdom, the industry, as well as just have like a little fireside chat. Joining me this week, please welcome my contributor to Game Wisdom and co-host, James Ellerby.
Hi guys.
Hi James, it's great to have you back on. I know you weren't feeling too well earlier this week, but it's great to sit down and talk with you.
Yeah, I had some physical stuff. My carburetor was going bad. I needed some new engine parts and normal stuff.
Yeah.
Normal human things.
For those of you watching this right now, this is the first time we are streaming this on Twitch. Normally we do the Game Wisdom Live show on YouTube. But after our big interview last week with Robert Swan, which is a 3-hour discussion, I decided to try over here on Twitch to see if the audience here is more receptive to a live show and if there's interest in doing it here. If there is, we'll move Game Wisdom Live over here, and don't worry, we will of course be taking these episodes and they will be uploaded to the YouTube channel in a few days. I have over there the Twitch chat open if anyone wants to come on and say hello or ask any questions. And otherwise, I think we're going to get going. We did get a new Patreon donation this week, so thank you to XP Coin for donating. And if you would like an actual shout out on these live shows, that's one of the options on the Patreon campaign. But in a more exciting news, we actually hit our another big milestone for the channel on YouTube, getting over 900 subscribers this week.
Woo! Yeah.
Oh, and I think my sign just broke behind me, but we'll just let it go. It is live. But thank you so much for everyone who is subscribing and enjoying the content. We are now amazingly less than 100 away from 1,000 subscribers. And it is definitely a shock to be getting that far up there. I mean, I remember when it was an ordeal to get 100, let alone 500, and here we are.
We're growing slowly but surely.
And for those of you watching this, either live or recorded, I'm going to be putting together a special, almost like another fireside chat critical thought in the coming days, because I want to sort of do a recap and get your thoughts on changes or anything you'd like to see going forward with the channel and such. I was going to do it tonight on Game Wisdom Live, but because of how long these recordings or these streams are compared to the other stuff, I figured it would be a bigger chance that the smaller videos that we'll get more of a discussion on that. But be sure to look for that in the coming days. Now another thing, we did hit 900, so I gave another vote for what people would like to see for another Let's Play on the channel. So this one was kind of a look back at some memorable indie games. So the choices were Aquaria, Fez, or Bastion. And right now, we got a vote for each one. So what would you like to see, James, as another Let's Play on the channel?
Bastion. Bastion is such a beautiful game.
Yeah.
Actually, I have it on the PS4, and it was just... I can't get enough Bastion. That whoever does the guy that does the voice work for that, the narrator, he could lull me to sleep every night. Like, yeah, just amazing job on the casting for their voiceover and just their writing team. Great game.
Yep, definitely. And what's interesting about them, I know developer Supergiant Games also did Transistor. I just did not get into Transistor. Did you play that one?
No, I didn't play it, but I've seen it, and yeah, I don't know. That looked like it would have been hard to get into.
And it is kind of polarizing considering just how much the overwhelming praise was for Bastion. But I just tried playing that, and it just did not click with me.
Yeah.
Now let me see what is going on here. 1 second, just making sure everything is open. There we go. Yep. So, for those of you wanting to vote, you can make a comment on any of the critical thought videos while the voting period's still going on. I figure if we did this, I think I posted this Tuesday night, so we'll try and keep it to about like a week or so, maybe a little bit more than that for voting, and then it's just moving up, and we'll hopefully hit 1,000. I think at this rate we may do it before the end of the year.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think we're on a pretty good roll.
Mm-hmm. 1 second here. I'm just going to make you a tiny bit louder on mine. I forgot my speakers or set a little bit low. 1 second. There you go. That should be good. So that way everyone can hear you as well as they can hear me.
Yeah.
There you go. Better. All right. So this week there were several big topics to talk about, both on the site and some things that were happening in the game industry news. So the first one, of course, is BlizzCon. And as we know, this is the annual event for all things Blizzard related. And of course, this included news on Diablo, World of Warcraft, Overwatch, Hearthstone, and Heroes of the Storm. So I guess for you, James, were there any big announcements or shocking news out of BlizzCon that got you excited?
Okay, excited first. Sombra looked as the new character for Overwatch, and I think she's gonna be. I hate to say it, and it works, but I still am mad at Blizzard for the fact that they do the starving game, where they take just a very long time to come up with new characters for Overwatch, so that by the time they do, it's you've been waiting for it for how long. So but just getting a chance to see Sombra and seeing her fit into the world and seeing the gameplay, I think it really it was really really interesting to really see people's reactions to that and see how that's going down, because she's been speculated for a long time and now she's finally confirmed. So yeah, that as far as good stuff goes, yeah, that was probably the big thing for me.
Now, right now, is she out? I know they put her on the public test server.
Yeah, she's out on the PTR, and I think they're running her on the PTR. I don't know if she got released on the computer or on the PC at all. That I'm not entirely sure. I just know that I know she is out on the PTR, and they're running stuff. So,
all right. From what they're saying, she's another offense character, very low defense, but has a lot of weird.
Yeah, high mobility, low defense. A lot of. But she's also a hacker, which is kind of cool because has the ability to hack people's moves and hack their different abilities and stuff. So she's gonna be kind of annoying. I almost look at her almost like she reminds me of Waluigi, but for Tracer. She looks like she's basically like the darker, edgier Tracer, which I think is kind of funny. So,
which
also she's Hispanic too. She is Mexican, I believe.
Yeah. Another multicultural character from Overwatch. I know someone was talking about how all the voice actors for Overwatch got together this week.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep. A friend of mine sent me the video to that. If you guys should check out that video.
And because she's very similar to Tracer, that means that will be another character that I will never be able to play, because I cannot play as Tracer.
She's a little slower than Tracer, and they gave her an Uzi, or a submachine gun, I should say. But I don't know. She's gonna be interesting. She's very interesting.
That doesn't help me. Tracer uses dual machine gun pistols, and I still can't aim with that. It's Mai for life, I think, for me.
Mai is awesome. Yes,
yeah.
Yes. They were even saying that in the game that Mai is going to be really strong against the new person against Sombra.
Now, of course, there was news of more content coming to Heroes of the Storm, which I have not played in a very, very long time. Did you ever get a chance to play that one, James?
Yes, I have. I have played Heroes of the Storm back when my computer was working and the game first came out. I really enjoyed it, actually. I liked it even better than League of Legends. I felt like it was League of Legends with a point. And I had fun. There was more to do. The way you progressed your character was really good for customization, but also like not too complex, where it's like 500 items. Pick which one. If you pick wrong, you lose. Like,
and if you don't build the exact item build for your character or class at that moment, you will lose, and then your team will yell at you for 30 minutes.
Yep, exactly. You didn't have a lot of that in just because of the way their character builds operate in the game is just. I felt like it's superior. It's more about the character and less about the items you pick. So you almost feel more invested in that character. Like, I can make my chain if I'm playing Stitches from World of Warcraft, the big zombie guy with the hook, because obviously Blizzard has a fetish with big guys with hooks. If I'm playing Stitches and I want him to have more regeneration, I can give that to him just from leveling up. If I want his chain hook to go further or do more damage, I can make that choice, and both are just as effective, which I find really awesome. So yeah.
I just have to ask, does every like Dota or mobile-based game have a character who can like grab people with a chain? Is that like a common thing?
That's a Blizzard thing. Yeah, that is a Blizzard thing, because even in Overwatch you have Roadhog,
and he's another one that I'm semi good with too.
Roadhog's awesome. Roadhog is a lot of fun.
And the other surprising news came from Diablo 3, and I've been waiting for more information or more growth from Diablo 3 for a while now. They announced they, of course, started another season, I think a week ago, which nothing really seemed to be like new with it. I know I haven't played the game in at least 2-3 months at this point. And they announced two big things coming to Diablo 3 soon. The first is you'll play the original Diablo using upgraded Diablo 3 graphics in Diablo 3. That sounds pretty awesome. I know it's probably got a lot of people dreaming that they may do Diablo 2 at some point.
Yeah, that's cool. Although I feel like companies are doing that. Same thing's happening with Call of Duty, the Call of Duty franchise. The Infinite Warfare is being released with Modern Warfare 4, I think it was. Modern Warfare 4, yeah. And it's being released with, but you have to buy one to get the other. You have to buy the Infinite Warfare in order to get the Modern Warfare Remastered. That's what it is, Modern Warfare Remastered. And I'm like, I don't know if I want Infinite Warfare. So you're gonna force me to get that? Just I don't know. I think that's a little shady sometimes when companies try to feed on our nostalgia a little bit too much.
Yeah, it would have been just easier to do it as a separate DLC.
Yeah.
Or have it in the bundle for free, like you get the collector's edition, and then if you want to buy it just separately, it's, $10, $20 or whatever like that.
Yeah.
Because, again, you never want to lock content behind collector's editions or extreme paywalls.
Very true. Very true. But yeah, I feel like that's the second time this year that I've heard that, where it's we're gonna give you the old school retro game if you buy our brand new game, and I don't know.
Yeah. And then there's, of course, the other big piece. They're going to be releasing in 2017 the Necromancer. It's going to make a return to Diablo 3.
Yeah.
And this has got some interesting debates going on. There's a lot of people who aren't too happy to see his return.
Yeah, I heard about that, which is kind of interesting. Like, I did play the Necromancer in Diablo 2, so I think it's going to be. I don't know. Graphically, I think it's going to be really cool to see like a new. Like, it was really cool and beautiful to see him like updated graphics, but I wonder how he's going to fit into this new Diablo into
Hmm.
this new Diablo thing. And also, it's like it's kind of weird that they went with the necromancer, considering the fact that you already have the witch doctor was supposed to be the new necromancer.
Exactly.
So, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay, it's another pet class. Huh.
Hmm.
Okay. And like, yeah, just you could tell by a lot of some of the big fans' disappointments in what they were offering was
Hmm.
kind of interesting to see.
Yeah, and I know a few people who tried it out at BlizzCon.
Uh-huh.
They're trying to, I guess the big difference that Blizzard's trying to do with the Necromancer compared to the Witch Doctor is give you more of a control over them. Like you can direct your skeleton to attack specific targets,
Uh-huh.
and of course you'll have the golem back and stuff like that. But it does very much seem similar to the Witch Doctor.
They're very similar. He's even said that there's a golem. Like the
Hmm.
witch doctor has the flesh golem. And like
Hmm.
I don't know. I just feel like people are gonna get aren't really getting as much out of it because we already have had that experience.
Hmm.
You know,
Uh,
what I mean?
yeah. Yeah, and I'm trying to think if there's any class I would love to see, like another like classes in the game. Probably one who would stand out maybe would be, I guess, like the druid at this point, who was
Yeah,
part of the expansion to Diablo
yeah,
2.
yeah. I remember the druid, and I think that would have been a very good choice. Just it's different. It's
Hmm.
very different than a lot of the other character. I think the closest representation would probably be the monk, but even then, they're just very different.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna say
yeah, I don't
the
know.
assassin, but then I remember that the demon hunter basically fulfills that like trap-based role.
Yeah, yeah. I think the demon hunter kind of does the same thing.
Yeah, but it definitely seems like Diablo 3 has kind of like fallen by the wayside in a sense for Blizzard. Like they're not promoting it as much, especially compared to Hearthstone and of course now Overwatch and Heroes of the Storm.
Well, I mean, yeah, and I think what really happened when Overwatch dropped, Diablo 3 disappeared. Like it was, and I'm talking about even just the name of
Hmm.
Overwatch dropped, and back when we didn't even know, what it was going to be like.
Hmm.
I felt like Diablo 3 was already waning, already on its way out.
Yeah, and with Diablo 3, like again, they definitely had a tough first year until
Yeah,
patch I think 1.2 or 1.4. That's one that really changed things around.
yeah, yeah.
But like with Diablo 3, I was kind of surprised we haven't heard more news about more like expansions. Like I mean, with StarCraft 2, they've obviously had three expansions with the story campaign,
Uh-huh.
and it kind of seems like Diablo 3 could have been really set up for that. And
Yeah.
a part of me wonders that I think a lot of this fell because of the damage the real money auction house system did. Like if that was pulling money in, you can bet Blizzard would have, 5, 6 different expansions out of Diablo 3 by now.
So you think just because, well, but I mean, I are you that wasn't the full monetization model
Yeah.
though. So I doubt that. I mean, come on, it's Diablo 3 and they did have good sales when the game
Hmm.
first came out. So it's
Oh yeah.
not like they were like hurting on the sales division.
Yeah.
I just felt, why did they just drop the ball on that?
Hmm.
Like yeah, and you're right, there was only what, one expansion. Now they had several updates,
Oh
but
yes.
but we're talking about Blizzard here. Like we're talking about
Hmm.
the expansion kings. So
Hmm.
it's just really odd that they didn't. Yeah, I felt like they kind of dropped the ball when it came to Diablo 3. They're just, people got to end game and they're pretty much like, well, hardy har har, start grinding,
Hmm.
and yeah, and that you're not going to keep people. You're only going to keep people for so much, for so long. You know what I mean? Eventually, they're going to get tired of doing the same dungeon, the same stuff over and over again. Yeah,
Yeah.
the dungeon might change, but the aesthetics don't. So
Yeah. And the progression model is so limited to begin with. Once you have one set of items that you like, you're
uh-huh.
pretty much set for the end game. Like you're not going to
Yeah,
want to change.
yeah, and then the question is, what do you do after that? Well, what do you do when you have everything you want?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that is a that's a legitimate problem. Like,
Hmm.
what do you do? Like, oh, I have all the gear I want, and my guy's max level and has all his stuff.
I'm at Torment 10. What else is there?
What else is there? And why else? You know,
Yeah,
yeah,
and I think the division is also going to have to answer that question soon.
yeah,
As we know, like a few weeks ago, they did their big patch 1.4. Like it seems like patch 1.4 seems to be the magic number for a lot of these
yeah.
developers, but this is the one that they push back, adding more content to the game to get out to make their fans happy. So
Uh-huh.
from this point on, it's going to be about them trying to figure out, are they going to make a game that's going to last for years on end? Because right now there really isn't a reason to play once you get to max level. I
Yeah.
mean, I can hunt for set items. I can set the world tendency to 4. They're going to bump it up to 5. But
Uh-huh.
why? Why do
Yeah.
I want to still play this game?
Yep. And you also saw that why is becoming more of a prevalency in these newer games, especially in the fact that as gamers and some,
Mm-hmm.
especially longtime gamers, we've almost feel like we've seen it all. It's like, oh, well, roguelikes are making a comeback. Oh, well, another Final Fantasy. Oh, well, another this. You know, we've seen a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta give us a why. If you don't, you're gonna lose. You know what I mean? You're gonna lose people.
Mm-hmm. Especially if you're trying to make a long-lasting game, something
Yeah.
that's going to last for, more than just 6 months to a year. I
Yeah.
mean, Payday 2 right now, we're going on, I think, 3 years of
Yeah.
constant support and content. I think they still have another, I want to say year and a half in them, but they can sometimes change this every few months.
Yeah. And one of the things I really got to give to Payday 2 is
Mm-hmm.
the inclusion of other IPs in
Mm-hmm.
their IP, which I think it's so small and yet it makes such a big difference. Like when you can jump on Payday 2 and there's stuff from like other
Mm-hmm.
John Wick was on there. They had a John
Chivalry.
Wick. Yeah, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and that's like people. I think people underestimate how much that can help revitalize your game. Like just adding something that the players, adding things that gamers don't expect to an IP, like really does help.
Mm-hmm.
It really can push your sales.
It's curious that you said that, James, because I know a lot of people who complain about the additional IPs in Payday 2. Like when they
Really?
announced that John Wick was going to be a character, they just hated the idea. Like they felt that it
Huh.
was distracting from the actual Payday 2 brand. And
Oh,
it's one,
uh,
yeah.
oh, okay. Come on, the Payday 2 brand. Like, it's not like Payday 2 is not this long series. It's not Final Fantasy. Yeah, I mean, it's not. I don't get me wrong. I love Payday 2, and I know there are all these hardcore critics hardcore fanboys out there will fight me. But Payday 2 isn't exactly the most well-known game out there. It's not a brand that it's not like a Blizzard or a Diablo. You know what I mean? I would not put it on that level. And like, so it's one of those you're a bunch of dudes with silly masks shooting people. Heck, I didn't even play Payday 2 at first because I thought it was a rip-off Batman Dark Knight game. Like, so as far as the sanctity of the IP goes, I think that's a little hogwash.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I know they've been hinting that there's going to be a Payday 3 at some point.
Yeah.
And that's a really big question for them. Like,
Yeah.
what are they going to do with a sequel after they've supported one game for 3 years
For
now?
three, but it's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I think supporting one game for 3 years is really. I think it builds you a fan base. From a development standpoint, you know what you're doing by now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean. I think I tell you the truth. I think other companies should look towards the Payday crew. Who develops the Payday?
Overkill.
Overkill. They should look towards Overkill as an example. When you have the same game under your belt for 3 years, you know what you're doing. You have your fans. I'm repeating myself there, but like, you know what I mean? Like, I think you put your time in, and you're gonna get rewarded by your fan base. So when you suddenly come out and go, hey, we want to do another one, you're already gonna have tons of support. But at
Mm-hmm.
this point, Bethsaida could just say, all Bethesda has to do is say Fallout 5. And I mean, and we're not even done with Fallout 4, and we'll be at the gates trying to throw them money already. You know what I mean? But that's because Bethesda's put the time in. They've put the work in. We know what we're getting. We know we're getting quality. So, we know we're getting quality. We know we're getting quality, and we know the quality we're getting. So I think that's my opinion as far as like Payday 2 goes. And
yeah, I think my real question though with Payday 3 though is with the content. Like, what are they going to do with, my goodness, the amount of DLC that's been in Payday 2 at this point? Like, it would be amazing if they can transfer all that stuff over. I know they've been slowly but surely bringing back a lot of the old heists in Payday 1 to Payday 2. Yeah. I would love to see them do the Diamond heist at some point, which was the first game's big stealth-based heist.
Yeah.
But we will have to see with that. Now, of course, with BlizzCon, getting back to that, with every new BlizzCon, there's a new expansion, it seems, to Hearthstone. So they announce the Mean Streets of Gadgetzan?
Gadgetzan, yeah. Yep. And it's the whatchamacallit place, the Goblin area.
I have not played Hearthstone in a very long time. It was one of the games I was considering doing streams of or recordings for the channels. Yeah. But it just seemed that there were so many people playing
Hearthstone
far better than me, that it didn't seem like a point to try, and I don't think there's anything more I could add to the Voices of Hearthstone.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there. And I played Hearthstone for a while too, and I enjoyed every bit of it. And it's a great game, phenomenal game. Just, it's definitely saturated the market.
Yeah. Friend of the site, Chris Gardner from Fail Better, we talked about his addiction to Hearthstone a few years ago, and we were ever going to try and do something about that, but we never had a chance. But it's one of those games I try to get into it, but I just suck so bad. I just decided, nah, it's not worth trying to get into this one.
Yeah, and I can also see that. Like Hearthstone, and with any card game, even when you come to like games like Magic the Gathering, you're going to be entering into a highly populated, highly pushed meta game. Which can be very intimidating for new players, which is kind of sad because Hearthstone was one of those, if you got in on the ground floor, or at least like within like the first year of it being out, you're gonna have a good basis and bias of what the cards are, how they work, and how to play the game, and everybody's about the same level. But like with almost every other card game, and this is one of the problems I find with card games, you're gonna have those people who by year and a half to 2 year mark, you just have too many meta builds, less experimentation, the difficulty, or I should say the
learning curve.
Not necessarily the learning curve. The learning curve only bends a little bit, but the what do you call players that are higher base than you?
Higher rank,
the ranking, and the level. So there's more of a chance that you're going to run into somebody who's been playing since launch, put in $2,000 easily into the game, has all the best stuff, and you're just trying to figure out what to do, and it's not going to be fun. Yeah. It is not, because you're going to go to free play and not, and be like, oh, okay, I think I know what this card does. 6-hit combo, you're done. Game. Oh yeah, like and that destroys new players, and that destroys new players by the hundreds. And I think,
and like again with the ranking, because everyone resets back at the end of each season. Someone brand new who's like ranked 25 will start playing, and chances are they'll fight someone who's ranked 24, but who's been playing this game for a year and a half.
Yep.
And you're just going to get demolished in this game. And another point, as we said, is that there's just so many cards now, and the changing meta. Like, I remember watching videos of the the first expansion, Curse of Noxramas,
Yeah, Curse of
and
Nox. Yep.
how they've added in cards that have become almost standard for most decks, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Zombie Chow,
Uh-huh.
that guy, what is it?
The mechanical shredder I know is one.
Yeah,
Because like it when it dies, it gives you a free card.
exactly.
And it's like, yeah. And that's when there is a stand, like that is my biggest problem with card. And I love, you're talking about a guy. I played Yu-Gi-Oh, I played Pokemon in my youth. I've played Magic.
I did
I am
play
currently
Yu-Gi-Oh
playing-
too.
I'm currently playing the Dragon Ball Z card game by Panini. Like I love oh yeah, it has
There's a
yeah.
I remember a Dragon Ball Z card game back in the day too, like
Yes.
right around the height of Magic.
This is that. Only
Really?
it got re-released. It got bought by Panini and then re-released. Now they're redoing the expansions. So yeah. No, and I'm playing that as a man who loves card games. That is part of my biggest problem and complaint is that it's a reset each and every time.
And as we're just saying, when you start adding these cards that become the new standard, it raises the barrier of entry. Like, again, with Hearthstone, if I start this brand new, I'm not going to have these cards. I'm not going to come anywhere near those cards. And I'm going to be going up against people who, again, have them and get access to them. Now, I will say I like what they do with the expansions when they have like the little story campaigns or they mix things up from ranked and official play. Because it makes it a little bit more interesting. And again, for someone brand new, it helps, but I think it runs into that similar problem that StarCraft has. That the playing the game doesn't get you ready for the online play. Like you play the campaign in StarCraft 2, that will not do a damn thing for you when you try a ranked match for the first time. Oh
very
god,
much so.
and
it's a different animal. It's a completely different animal.
oh god, yes. After like a week of trying professional StarCraft 2, I'm like done. This ain't happening. I won't be at World Cyber Games. This is it. Nope.
Hey, I give you props for playing it for longer than for a week at least. And I think it does take some special people to really get that far. But like again, anything that's been around for a long time that has a competitive scene to it, a lot of that stuff is going to be very hard to get into to break through.
Exactly.
So.
It just gets so solidified with the meta, with everything that grows into it. And the problem is that it's a game where everyone is put into the same grouping. This isn't like a game where, like an MMO, where there's a difference between level 0 and 20, then 30 and 40, and then 50 and 60.
Yep, level brackets.
Yeah.
Level and skill level and skill brackets, which
one of my friends in Twitch, AC Wraith, is saying that he's designing his Path Wraith games to feature procedurally generated cards in order to cut down on how much an advanced experience has. And that is a good point about having cards that aren't like a set thing each time, or having a deck that could possibly be like a different thing each time you play it, without having that control. Now, one thing that's kind of interesting, we're seeing more games bring like CCG based elements to them.
Yeah.
Did you hear the game, James? This is an indie game. I'm not sure if you've heard of this one, but there's a game called Forced Showdown that came out last year.
Oh, that sounds so familiar, but no, I haven't actually seen it. I've heard the name. That's about it.
It's kind of like a cross between almost like a very light ARPG with CCG deck building, and all your cards become your upgrades, your abilities, items that you can use during the game. And it's very clever in how your deck it's basically an extension of your skill. Like if you suck at the game, no card is going to help you. But it's not the same thing as a game like Hearthstone or CCG games where you need like X amount of cards in order to dominate. Again, it focuses more on player skill, while the randomization or the RNG guides aren't as prevalent. But like with Hearthstone, it's one of those games that I would love to play more of. But
Mm.
again, the wall of trying to get into that game now is
Hmm.
so insane. Like for those of you watching this, I don't even own the first expansion. I stopped playing it even before that happened. So, I mean,
Yeah.
like having me show you how to play Hearthstone, it would be like having someone who can't drive teach you driver's ed, basically, or
Uh,
someone who has never been in a car walk you through how to drive.
yeah, yeah.
I guess one other thing about Hearthstone, and then we'll probably move on. I'm just kind of interested to see like what Blizzard's going to be doing to try and lower that curve. I mean, with Overwatch, they have the brackets and difference between ranked and free play,
Uh-huh.
but Hearthstone is such a different animal than those games.
Yeah. I don't even know if they're going to do anything about that. Like a lot of and again, this is no offense to
Mm-hmm.
developers, but like I see a lot of, especially for a company as big as Blizzard,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of going, well, we're just kind of going to let that people can play the game if they want, and not play the game if they don't want.
Yeah.
So there's if you're not good at it, then oh, that sucks to be you. You know what I mean? Just kind of a live and let live on that,
Yeah.
which I think is kind of sad because I think you're kind of alienating your a new player base. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's almost and which is kind of odd because like Blizzard, I feel like Blizzard
Mm-hmm.
it has always been one for. I guess I can't say they've always been one, but they've been a lot. What am I trying to say here? Uh, Look at World of Warcraft.
Mm-hmm.
World of Warcraft in the beginning was all about the new player. It really was. And then obviously you have the expansion. It was about the new player first, and then the expansions
Mm-hmm.
and the expansions and the end game content
Yeah.
second. And I almost feel like there was a shift
Mm-hmm.
in the player base where once it started to sell all that many units, it stopped being about the new player first and the expansion and the end game second. And
Yeah.
it started becoming more about, oh, okay, how do we keep this 1 million, 1 billion player base going? You know what I mean?
And the only way to do that, of course, is to extend the end game or
Extend,
extend that focus.
Uh-huh.
But it's one of the things that I talked
Yeah.
about with like MMOs. Like one of the things we're seeing with a lot of modern MMOs is have a very small learning curve, or leveling curve.
Uh-huh.
Division and DC Universe, I think it's a level cap at 30. So they know that their early experience is going to be easy to get into, quick to get, and then everyone's on the same page from there. But like a
Yeah.
game like World of Warcraft, or even something like Hearthstone these days, it's so backloaded with
Yeah.
cards and expansions and adventures that someone new is just going to be completely overwhelmed. And while you were talking, James, I'm looking at the Blizzard shop right now. So
Yeah.
you have 4 different sets of packs you can buy, including when Meat Streets of Gadget Zan is out. You
Uh-huh.
have 3 different adventures that you can buy, which are all the quests and all those cards.
Yeah.
And it's all adding more stuff, but there's
That's
just
kind of overwhelming to a new person.
Oh,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? They're like, well, what do I do? You know what I mean? If you don't have like a friend who's helping you through navigate all this, I think it's going to overwhelm you to the point of not wanting to play it
Exactly.
at all.
I felt the same thing with AI Wars, which is Arcane Games' massive strategy game. They're on version, I think, like over 9 or 10 at this point, with all the expansions and DLC they've added. It's one of those games that, just like with Hearthstone, you load it up for the first time, you see 5 different expansion sets, all these adventures. Like, what the hell am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And as you said a few minutes ago, James, trying to answer the why should I deal with this game or why should I play this, who's going to really want to put up with all that?
Yeah. Yeah, and the answer is not many. I don't think many people,
Mm-hmm.
or I think what it does is it funnels.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of having that a wide open accessibility, it
Mm-hmm.
becomes a funneled accessibility where at the top of the funnel is the people who've been playing since day one, and the bottom of the funnel is the people who keep the new people the new
Mm-hmm.
people struggling to get into it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah, I don't know.
There's just like no like starter area in Hearthstone.
Yeah,
There's no way to say I only want to play with people who don't have any expansions.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is funny because this brings me to. I remember we talked about this before, and I've heard some other people talk about this. I wish they would do this for WoW.
Mm-hmm.
Release just WoW. Release the whatchamacallit, vanilla WoW
Mm-hmm.
as a separate game. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
World of Warcraft. I remember my days of playing World of Warcraft. Starting World of Warcraft was so much fun. It was an MMO that I fully enjoyed playing by myself. Now I had a blast with friends and other people, but I fully enjoyed just
Mm-hmm.
the expansiveness of this world. The quests were easy. Everything I needed to do, and I didn't thought they were easy. Just it was easy to play. Not like, oh, the difficulty wasn't. It just it made the learning curve was so simple. You get one skill. You get two skills. You get three
Mm-hmm.
skills. You get four skills, and I can deal with that. Anybody can deal with four skills. You know what I mean? And then
Mm-hmm.
and then when I finally made it to level 85, because that's as high as I got, I had leveled all of that stuff up individually, and like I felt like I grew a character. It
Mm-hmm.
felt like almost like a D&D campaign that lasted like 2-3 years. I think three, maybe even 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because I'd worked this character up. I knew what he could do, where he was. But
Mm-hmm.
the progression is what made it so much better. At the very so when I stopped playing and then randomly saw some people go, they started doing these things where it was like, oh, a new promotion. You can get an automatic level 80.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here thinking, why? What? Like, and I understood that there are some people who have played the game numerous times, level up numerous characters, and just want to get to level 80 because they already know the whole story and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But I don't think they realize how many people would take advantage of that
Mm-hmm.
to completely skip out on everything that the developers work to build.
Yeah. And that is like kind of that issue with when you start having a huge leveling system there. It becomes such a drain on someone's time that if you're going to give them the option to skip, they're going to assume that, of course, the real game begins at whatever the level cap is.
Yep, whatever they're skipping.
Hmm.
Yeah, which yeah.
And I know that they've done numerous iterations and changing of World of Warcraft's progression model over the. I guess we're now at. What is it now? 14 years? Maybe?
14, yeah, at least 14.
So it's definitely. They're not going to. They're always going to be willing to experiment with it, but I think like World of Warcraft is another one of those games that at this point you're either going to play it or you're going to just say screw it. Like they don't really
Yeah.
need to attract new players to it anymore.
Yeah, yeah, which is that is one of the saddest things I've ever heard. I will ever hear about video gaming. Period.
Mm,
And like they've never said that, and I don't. Obviously, I'm not saying that that's their business model at all, because obviously it's not. But when that becomes a harsh reality,
mhm,
that's sad. That's almost to me that's almost like the death of gaming right there. When you hear or when you feel like they don't care about new players anymore. It
mhm,
should always be about the new players, like always. Even obviously, don't forget your old heads either. But
mhm,
the old heads will always find something to do. You know what I mean? They'll
mhm.
always find a way to keep playing the game. And yeah, you do have to keep them busy too. But I just, if you're not getting new people involved, what are you doing?
You're just sustaining, basically.
Yeah, yeah. And
And
who knows? Maybe for them that's enough. But
yeah,
I don't
I
know.
mean, at this point, World of Warcraft has probably made more money than most small countries
Oh
after
yeah, definitely.
so many years of still in the millions of subscribers. So it's not like
Mhm.
Blizzard's going to be running out of money anytime soon.
Yeah, yeah,
But
definitely. They're not missing out on much.
I guess the question though is, how do you fix something like that? And going back to Hearthstone, how do you make a game inviting for new players without, of course, stepping on the toes of your old players? And it's
Yeah.
not an easy answer. I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of developers thinking that question right now.
Very much so.
Yeah, so I guess with that, let's move on probably to another topic. I mean, wow, is that right? Are we really over 40 minutes into this stream and we barely started? Oh my god, we gotta be careful, James, or we'll be here
Yeah,
till like midnight.
yeah,
There's
definitely.
what is with Twitch and making us talk extra long?
I don't. It's not Twitch. It's us. Whenever you find a subject that you're passionate about,
hmm
it doesn't matter. The time goes.
Oh yes. We can definitely talk a little bit about some of the games we've been playing, and I've been
Yeah.
playing two very interesting games.
Uh huh.
The first one is Book of Demons. This is an indie game. It's a almost amalgamation of
Okay.
different genres. It's part collectible card game, part
Ooh.
roguelike, and part homage to the original Diablo.
Ooh. Okay.
And here's the confusing part. It's done by this developer. I think it's called. Oh, I'm going to butcher their name right now. It's either Thing Trunk or Trunk Thing. It's one of those two. And if the developers are watching this, I do apologize for saying that. And they're basically doing this thing called Return to Games. It's kind of like their branding.
Okay.
So if this Book of Demons works, they're going to do other genre spoofs essentially. So
Ah.
someone hinted at maybe doing a play off of StarCraft
Yeah.
or something like that. So Book of Demons is essentially their riff off of Diablo. And it's a very interesting game. Like, it's one of those games that's really a greater than the sum of its parts kind of deal. Each
Yeah.
level is procedurally generated. As a very clever thing, you can decide how long you want to make each dungeon,
Uh
and it
huh.
will tell you an estimate of how long they expect you to play it. So if you want to play
Ah.
like a 10-minute dungeon, you can set it for that. If you want to play a 45-minute dungeon, you can do that.
Wow.
And then you have these different cards that essentially you put them into your inventory. You can use them at will, and you
Uh
have
huh.
this whole collection of different cards. Like there's cards that give you special passives, skills, stuff like that,
Yeah.
and you can level them up over the play. And combat is simply you just click on an enemy. Like, it's very basic in that regard. Like, it feels like they're trying to make something very accessible while combining all these different elements together. And it also uses a paper craft aesthetic, so everything looks like little paper figurines
Oh,
on
that's
like a
cool.
board kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I'm definitely liking it. It is in early access right now, and
Mm-hmm.
they're planning on I I want to say I think till the end of I think early 2017 is when the game will actually be released.
Okay.
But I'm really enjoying it, despite again that it's very much like like your first RPG kind of thing. It's very
Yeah.
basic, very streamlined, but again, it's one of those examples of a game where everything kind of fits together well and it works.
Uh huh.
The other game that I did try for a few minutes was Salt and Sanctuary,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. I've wanted to play that so bad. It's on PS4 now, and
mhm,
I would like to get it. But what? Yeah. What was your thought process of it?
I only played it for a few minutes, and then I decided I'm going to try and pick it up again when there's a good sale on it, because of course they were entering I think another sale period in a few weeks, so maybe you'll
Okay.
get there. But I didn't like it as much as I did Dark Souls. I was really expecting that kind of Dark Souls allure of it,
Yeah.
but it just seemed like people were describing more on the Metroidvania side than they did a Souls game,
Yeah.
and it kind of shows. Like, this feels more. I can't really. I'm not sure how to describe it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like it's less about like the player skill. Like everything seems like very like damaged, like sponge worthy. Like the bosses seem to take forever to get killed.
Huh.
Like I wasn't feeling that same sense of that aha moment when you figure out a good boss in
Yeah,
Souls
yeah,
games, or exploring this crazy level like you do. Like all the variety of sections in the Souls game. Sen's Fortress,
yeah.
Anno Lundo, um,
Yep, Anne
uh,
Orlando, the Poison Swamplands, I can't remember what
Blight
they're called.
Town.
Blight Town, yeah, yeah, all the different.
Like it doesn't seem to have that kind of identity. It feels more like they said we'll make a Souls-like game, and
Yeah,
that's it. Like it's like being Souls-like is their big thing.
yeah, but that's it. Like
Yeah.
they didn't add the personality or
Mhm.
the the individualism of Souls. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's one thing to be like something. It's another thing to just be like something in name
Mhm.
and I don't know, feel only. It's
Yeah.
supposed to feel like Dark Souls. I don't know. Yeah.
And that's one of those real challenges, especially when you're trying to mirror or again be an homage to a previous game. I mean, hell,
Yeah.
when XCOM was announced, not X with the hyphen com, but the newer XCOM, people were, of
Uh-huh.
course, picking that game apart, everything that it did differently. And
Yeah.
that's the challenge. When you try to build something like another game, you're going to be compared to that game. I
Very
mean,
much so. Yeah.
hell, what we just talked about for the last 40 minutes with World of Warcraft. How
Uh-huh.
many MMOs came out that were World of Warcraft like?
Yeah. Well, and also got placed into that World of Warcraft. Um, how much is your game like World of Warcraft? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Like, you could not be an MMO in the early 2000s without being linked to World of Warcraft. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it was impossible because what they did was what they did so well.
Of
So
course.
everybody's going to be like, well, you got to beat this.
Mm-hmm.
You have to beat this if you're going to be even on the map.
But
So
then, how are you supposed to beat them if they're constantly growing? It's
exactly.
a losing battle. It's the same thing with like mobile developers saying, "I'm going to make the next Angry Birds," or "My game will
Yeah.
be bigger than Clash of Clans."
Uh-huh.
It's not going to
Yeah.
happen. You
Yeah.
don't have millions of dollars and their whole marketing team behind you.
Hmm.
And it's one of the things we talked about, I think, with Tim a few weeks ago, that you have to do something different. You have to
Yeah.
stand out. If
Yep.
you're just making World of Warcraft like, or Dark Souls like, or whatever like, there
Yeah.
people are going to play the original because that's the one they know and love.
Yeah. And most likely it's probably going to be the one that's going to be better because they
Hmm.
had a lot more time developing what they are. You know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah. The Blizzard process. I mean, hell, we could talk 2 hours on Blizzard's magic alone. I
Yeah.
mean, they
Yeah.
have gotten it down to a science about how
Uh-huh.
they analyze games and, you know,
Yeah.
such the detail that they will pick apart mechanics to figure out the best ways of doing things.
And the
It,
character development that
mhm.
Blizzard shows, like every almost you cannot say a Blizzard character without him or her being memorable, and
Mhm.
you pretty much can figure, you know what I mean? Like they're just very good at characterization. So like when they finally said when Overwatch was announced and they're like, "Oh, we're going to be doing a hero shooter MOBA." Like a hero shooter
Mhm.
and people knew that the characterization was going to be off the
Yeah,
charts already. So
definitely. And like with Soul and Sanctuary, I want to play it more, but it's like again, like I don't feel that desire to play as much as I did with the Souls game. So
yeah,
I think when it does go on sale, I think I will definitely pick it back up again.
yeah,
Because as we've said, like when your time is limited or when money's limited, you gotta wait for the right time to get it. And
very much. Yeah.
with as we're saying with Black Friday, Cyber Monday, I'm fairly sure it's gonna go on sale soon.
Oh yeah,
So we
yeah,
will see what happens then.
yeah. The holiday sales are coming.
Mm-hmm. All right. I guess
New
for
games.
you, James, what games have you been playing?
Uh so I picked up um Titanfall 2,
Hmm.
and I love it.
Hmm.
It is everything I loved about Black Ops 3. It has that character. It almost has that character personality. But it's Black Ops 3 fused with Armored Core. And I might just be starving for Armored Core here, but I love the game. Now, could it use a little more customization? Yeah, it could use a little more, but I wouldn't say that that was anything that's not hurting. It is entertaining. It's fun. You can pick so many different things to make your character different, and you're not going to run. The odds of you running into somebody who's using the exact same setup as you are so astronomically low. But also, even if you're a new player, you still feel like you're having fun, like you're doing things. So it's a obviously it's a first person shooter, but one of the things that does set it apart, obviously that sets it apart, is the Titans, obviously Titanfall. But what they don't tell you is that it becomes a different part, almost like the pacing of the game changes. So basically, it's Call of Duty for the first maybe 5 minutes. It's literally just Call of Duty clone number 2 or number 200. It is Call of Duty for the first 5 minutes. Now there's a little bit things in there that make it a little bit more fun than Call of Duty. They give you grappling hooks with realistic physics.
Nice.
So like you can you can almost Spider-Man, like through a level, which is kind of cool. But like I said, it's Call of Duty for the first 5 minutes. And then the Titans start coming out. And it's a larger map than Call of Duty, which is really apparent. It's a larger map than Call of Duty because it has to accommodate these Titans, these gigantic robots, of which, now the coolest thing is you're not necessarily, it gives you the options. You can jump inside your robot and pilot it, and it gives you, then you have all the robots skills, kind of like a character on kind of like an Overwatch character, where they have like 4 or 5 4 abilities that you can cycle through and an ultimate. So or you can set your robot to AI mode, just AI mode, where your robot is basically you have a giant robot while you're playing Call of Duty now, which changes a lot of things because other people have giant robots and they're trying to Call of Duty you, and you're trying to Call of Duty. It is a lot. It's Call of Duty with a much needed change, and not just change in like, oh, we added a new gun, oh, we added a new No, there's a big enough change that it becomes that it holds its own as a new game with its own strategies and setups and fun factor, because you don't ever get that kind of level of fun factor, I'm gonna say, on Call of Duty, because after 5 minutes of playing Call of Duty in a match, 5 minutes in a match, nothing's changed. You're still running around, you're still shotgunning, people are dying and like left and right. Oh, somebody got a kill streak. Oh, giant helicopter killing everybody. And here you're gonna get your Titan at least once. So even if you're not good at playing first-person shooter games, you can feel powerful for all of however long you're able to keep your Titan alive. But you are able to, you're like, oh, giant robot. And like, when I mean like the Titans change the gameplay, I mean like if you melee in a Titan and there's a dude that's outside of their Titan, you're turning them into paste. Like, you're turning them into, it's a one-hit kill. You feel like you're piloting a giant mech that can basically chunk people's face, like literally just turn people into pudding. And so you feel powerful. And that first time you melee a human from your giant mech, it's one of the greatest feelings in the world. Just bam, and it literally just turn into human pudding, and it's just so much fun. So.
Is that out for the PC or just for the consoles?
I don't know. I don't know if it came out for the PC as well. It definitely is for the consoles, but I would imagine that it's going to come out. If it's not out already for the PC, that it would come out for the PC. But yeah, no, that I don't know for sure.
Yeah. One other game that I'm really excited about that is coming out really soon is this game called Planet Coaster. Have you heard of this one?
Yes, yeah, I have heard of it. That's coming out. Yeah.
Yeah, this is
yep. Is it kind of like Roller Coaster Tycoon, right?
Yeah, it's like the spiritual successor to it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited about that. I'm going to try and get in touch with the developers. I would love to check that game out because I love those old kind of like the theme park games, Roller Coaster Tycoon, and you just be able to like build like your own theme park. It's always a fun thing. There's another game right now that's in early access, Park Attack, which also looks very interesting, but it still has quite a bit of time before it's done.
What's it called? Park Attack.
Yeah.
And that's gonna have the. You said that does the same thing, just like the.
Yeah, like you're
Tycoon.
building your own amusement park.
Okay.
You have to try and run it and hopefully make rides that people don't get killed on. Like my first roller coaster in the game, I was off by like 1 degree, and every time the person gets to one point, the car just flies off the track. I'm like, oh god, just create a death trap.
Yeah, I've never got a chance to actually play any of the Roller Coaster Tycoon games. They sound fun.
I know they're available on GOG right now, Good Old Games.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm definitely excited about that one. And other than that, of course, Call of Duty came out very recently. I've just never been a big Call of Duty fan. I suck at those games. I usually try them during the multiplayer weekends. And I just get my ass kicked each and every time.
Now, I'm not that good at those games either, but one of the things I tell you the truth, the first game that I got into was Modern Warfare 2, I think it was called, Modern Warfare 2. And the reason I played it is because of the RPG-esque. That was like back when first-person shooters were really trying to kick up the RPG aspects. And that really pulled me in because up until that point, I was an RPG fan. So, and I'm not that good at those kind of games, so I just basically run around, try to be as annoying as possible, and I have fun when it's one of those people. Oh, you may have killed me 37 times back to back, but I took a rocket and blew up the guy that had the most kills in the game. So I feel accomplished. I'm good.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's another reason why I like Overwatch, where I think Overwatch is one of those games where if you're not good at those kinds of games, there's characters in there that you can literally just run around and harass everybody, and you're still helping.
Roadhog and May right there for me.
Yep. So, yeah.
All right. I think we are about at the hour for the stream, so we'll probably wrap things up. Like, there's not any, like, really big topic for us to talk about. I mean, hell, we could sit here and talk for another 40 minutes easily. I was going to bring up kind of about, really about, like, trying to get new people into playing video games, if you want to touch on that briefly.
Yeah, definitely.
This is based on the post I put up on the site a few days ago, which was right around the time we hit 900, so... subscribers. So once again, thank you for everyone who is subscribing to the YouTube channel, and of course for those of you watching this on Twitch. And I talked about sort of the challenges with trying to get new people into playing video games. So I already gave my thoughts on it in the post. So for you, James, have you had any experience with introducing games to non-gamers?
My girlfriend Rebecca, Rebecca Bell, had not played a video game before meeting me. So, and one of the games, the two games I started her on, the funny thing was, the first game was I had her try Borderlands, which I know is usually a good. Well, and this I'm not trying to be. I'm not being. I'm trying not to be sexist. It's a good girlfriend game. It's a good game that you can play because it's very co-op friendly. There's a lot of funny, witty writing. And she just wasn't the biggest problem for her in that game was camera angles and trying to control the camera as to you know, I don't think about it, but whenever you play a first person shooter, you have the control of your character and the control of the camera, or I should say the control of the you have the control of your person and how the camera is operating around your person.
Yeah.
And that can be jarring for people who aren't realizing what context they are playing in. They might load up a first-person shooter and be like, wait, am I that guy I'm looking at? Or am I the guy that, like, some people don't realize contextually how a first-person shooter operates, and especially someone who's never played a game before, who's never played video games before. The next game I had her try was Diablo 3. And she loved it. She got to make her own character. She got to learn her skills. Remember the skill progression I talked to you about, like with especially with World of Warcraft, where you're level 1. Here's a fun. You get to shoot out this crazy magic ball,
and then level 2.
Now you're level 2. Now you get an electrical beam. Okay, magic ball, electric beam, magic ball, electric beam. By the time you're level 20, you're like magic ball, electric beam, buff my sword, attack this person, kill this guy. You know what I mean? And it's that natural progression, and it was top down, so she didn't have to worry about camera stuff. She didn't have to worry about everything that she needed to see. All the information of who she was and where things were was right there on the screen for her. So that I feel like that was such a really good introduction to gaming in general. The top-down view is very good for new players.
Yeah. And again, like with Blizzard's ability to make that very engaging progression model. And we can say the same thing about Call of Duty as well. Like, when you have that kind of leveling system, it's just a great way to ease new players in. You start them off with something cool, and then they just get better as time goes on.
Yeah.
Compared to, again, either dropping the player in with like nothing at all, or hitting the player with 800 different options that you all have to decide from the first 10 minutes of play.
Yeah. There was another game I used to play with my niece, who she was maybe 6 or 7 at the time, and we played a game called Fat Princess. Have you ever heard of that? It's by Santa Monica Studios. And it was such a amazingly simple game to play, to just pick up and play, that she was it took her about maybe 5 to 10 minutes before she was running around at age a 6-year-old girl, running around like shooting people with arrows, putting on hats, saving the princess. It got straight to the point of having fun. And that was, I think a lot of developers need to take a look at their games, and when it comes to new people and getting new players, how fast can this new person have fun in your game?
Oh yeah, the first 10 to 15 minutes is such a critical point for a new player. You don't, like when we talked about this earlier, you never want someone to describe your game as the real game begins, 5 hours in, 20 hours in, stuff like that, because new players aren't going to stick around for 10 to 15 hours for your game to get good. They're going to try for 10 minutes and go, yeah, this sucks, I'm never going to play this again, and get rid of it.
They'll know whether or not they like your game within the first 10. Yeah.
And it's kind of one of the challenges again with introducing new players is how do you pick the best game for them? Again, you can't show someone who's never played a game for something like Europa Universalis or God,
Dwarf Fortress,
or Dark Souls. Let's let someone who's never touched a video game before play Dark Souls.
I actually would argue that a little bit, just on the fact of Dark Souls 1. Yes, it's hard, but the mechanics are clear. And Dark Souls 1 was one of those examples of the mechanics are so clear that somebody new could pick up Dark Souls and figure it out just from their tutorial is their tutorials, I'd say medium to about a medium level tutorial, just because, and I'm not talking about the first guy you fight, the demon
asylum
I'm
demon.
talking while you're traveling to the asylum demon, there are enough little guys and little things to show you how to play the game.
It's a very organic tutorial.
Yes, very much so. And I think that's really swing a sword, hit a bad guy. And when you keep things simple like that, and Dark Souls is all about exploration, all about exploration.
Mm-hmm.
So even for a new player, they're going to want to know what they can do. They're going to try out different buttons and realize, oh, this does a back hop. Oh, this does this. Oh, I have this kind of attack.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it really adds to the life of the game, as well as its accessibility. When if I just want to sit there and swing a sword around, I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And the game is built that I'm most likely gonna get. I'm gonna get at least to the asylum demon,
Mm-hmm.
just flailing around, just flailing around and doing stuff like that. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I think another challenge, and I think we'll wrap things up in like the next minute, but one like the big challenge I was reading an article about, interesting non-gamers to video games, is definitely the fantasy elements, the insanities that is in these video games. I
Yeah.
know sometimes that can be very daunting. Like if you show someone a game like Final Fantasy where, the first 20 minutes is watching a massive cutscene about what's going on in the world, they're
Yeah.
going to be looking at it going, what the hell am I doing here? Or, like the strange things we see in a Metal Gear Solid game. Like try having someone brand new look at explain to them the story of Metal Gear Solid for someone
Yeah.
who's never touched a video game before.
Well, but I think that's a little bit different than
Yeah.
just having a cinematic because, like I said, one of the things like my girlfriend Rebecca really wanted to play, which I just mechanically she's just not going to be able to do that. It was oh geez, Joel and Ellie,
Last of Us.
Last of Us. And the reason was because she was just so into the cinematic approach of the game that it looked like a story to her. It looked like a movie, and
Yeah.
that's basically how they marketed it. And now again, like I said, mechanically speaking, I don't think that game would have been that easy for her to pick up and play. But I do think that visual effects can help and hinder at the same time.
Yeah. And again, I think another part is that sometimes it's just going to be based on the person themselves. Like, there's no one magical thing that will make your game universally appealed. I
Yeah,
don't
no
think
one
there's,
size fits all.
yeah, I don't think there's any game that has universal appeal. Now, there's making games accessible. That's a different story. That's a hour and a half conversation easily.
Yeah.
And we definitely talk about that with Blizzard. They make some very accessible games. Their model really does help to bring someone new in. But again, keeping someone playing and keeping them growing throughout the course of the game's development or progression model, that's where the challenge comes in. And that would be something that would take us way over an hour to get into.
Definitely.
So I think we are going to wrap things up here for this week's episode of Game Wisdom Live, or Game Wisdom Ive, because it looks like my L has fallen off my little board behind. So welcome to Game Wisdom Ive, everybody. That's going to be our new show. And we're going to end things here. Like I said, this is the first episode we're streaming on Twitch. So if there is interest, we did get a few more people watching it here than we do on YouTube. So maybe we'll try it again here next week. And like I said, for the folks watching on YouTube, this will of course be uploaded to the channel there in a few days. For fans of Game Wisdom, once again, thank you so much for subscribing as we hit 900 this week, and I'm sure we'll have plenty more hopefully next week when we do another show. Other than that, be sure to tune in tomorrow for the podcast. It's going to be James and I are talk with Tim from A Paladin Without a Crusade. I delayed the cast a week because we had the 3-hour talk with Robert Swan last week. I figured people didn't want to listen to me talk for 5 hours. I can't even listen to myself talk for that much. So that'll be going up tomorrow. Also, for those of you watching this live on Twitch right now, this will not count for tonight's stream. I have some more Mercenary Kings to play tonight, so be sure to come back for that later on tonight. Other than that, James, as always, thank you so much for coming on and being my co-host this week.
Oh, it was my pleasure.
Awesome. And for those of you watching this, if you would like to be a guest for one of our live shows or a podcast guest for the Perceptive Podcast, be sure to let me know. Send me an email, josh@game-wisdom.com, or simply leave a comment. Just get in touch with me, and we would love to talk with you. And hopefully we won't die from talking for 4 or 5 hours in a single sitting. Alright, so with all that said, thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Game Wisdom Live. Be sure to check back tomorrow on Twitch, YouTube, Game Wisdom, all that great stuff for more content. We'll talk to you live next week, and I'll see you all tomorrow with more great recorded content. So, James, if you want to, do you have anything you would like to say before we wrap up the show?
No, just say thank you for all the people giving us 900 subscribers, and we hope we can keep on learning with you guys.
All right. So, with all that said, thanks again for watching. Like I said, for the Twitch streams, be sure to come back later tonight. For everyone else, we will catch you all again real soon. Have a great night. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and of course share with your friends. It always helps out. For daily posts on all manner of game design and industry topics, check out game-wisdom.com. To support the site and everything that I do, be sure to check out the Patreon campaign. If we can hit goals, it will mean more content for everyone to enjoy, and I'll be able to support myself and my household. If you want to follow me, you can find me on Twitter at GWBycer for updates throughout the day and random thoughts from me. And lastly, you can find me on Twitch right over there at GWBycer for daily streams most nights around 10 Eastern. Thanks again for watching the video, and be sure to check out more great content coming to the Game Wisdom channel real soon.